All right, now we're recording. So today's topic is what to do when you are not hungry. So what happens is the less hunger that is felt, the less food that we eat normally, right? Because we've been told to just listen to our body, just listen to our hunger cues. But actually, that's not the most effective way to approach GLP-1 because that's exactly what GLP-1 suppresses our hunger, our food noise. And so that's what makes it so hard when you're not hungry. What are you supposed to do? I'm not hungry. And maybe you've kind of felt like, man, I'm finally losing weight. Why do I care if I have hunger? You probably like feel in control of your own body for the first time ever, maybe. And I'm not saying all the time that's true, but for many of us, you just like that feeling of control or that the food isn't controlling you is really a great feeling. The medication is helping with that. And for some of us, people are complimenting, telling us that we look healthy, we look happy, because we're feeling more confident in our body, and it does feel good. And getting those compliments feels good. But we just need to make sure that we're not letting GLP-1 become another a fast fix or even a crutch. And I know like that's a little bit controversial, that crutch word. Is it a crutch or is it a tool? I like to think of it more as a tool. And in the beginning, it is kind of a crutch that we're kind of using it to help. We're using it to help us, right? But instead of using it as a crutch, I want you to be thinking of it, I'm using this as a tool. We want to take all of the things that have those negative connotations and turn them into a positive. I'm getting into the little bit of the mindset stuff, and I told myself I wasn't going to get distracted with that, but I always tend to throw that in. So most of us aren't intentionally doing any of that, making it a quick fix, doing any of that, but most of us just simply aren't hungry. And so that's what I want to address today. So GLP-1 paired with your nutrition should enhance you, not be causing more long-term problems like losing strength and losing energy and ultimately losing muscle or gaining the weight back. That's what we want to avoid today. And so first of all, I'm Kelly. I'm Kelly Bader. I'm co-owner of GLP-1 Enhanced with Aliza. Don't know if Elise is here today. I don't know if both of us could be on as like co-hosts, but she may pop on here from time to time. But that's the kind of the point of why we're doing this. We're your physician and pharmacist team. We're your nutrition GLP-1 experts. But there's both of us so that we can both help you in different ways. So these calls are going to be less formal, like I said, than our normal webinars. They're not fully scripted. Although this one, I do have some nice slides for you guys because I didn't want to get too far off track like I've already started doing from time to time here. And I want you to go ahead and be asking questions as they come up in the chat. I'll try to answer them as I can, but for sure at the end, some of these calls that we'll do will be strictly Q&A. So we've committed to doing at least one call a month, but as you can tell, this is our second one just this month. So we'll likely be doing more than just one a month, especially with two of us. Let's see. We also want you to know that by being a part of this group, it automatically registers you as VIP for anything special that we do. So basically, like if we have a challenge, we've been considering doing a fun challenge, you would automatically have VIP access just by being in this group, the GLP-1 Hub, because that's where the VIP calls will be hosted. And Aliza and I both want to do calls because you may resonate more with one of us in the way that we teach or the way that we talk or the way that we coach. And that's not like necessarily a reflection on Aliza or Kelly. That's just like different people learn in different ways. Kelly goes off on tangents sometimes. And then the topics also, we're going to vary those. Some of them will be something like this, like a direct topic. Some of them will just be like Q&A. Let's come on and let's answer questions as they come up. Or, hey, this is something that we've seen. We may have several topics if they're smaller. This one's a bigger topic, so it's going to be a full training. And then, of course, I love the mindset. That's what a lot of you watched that last mindset one that I did about 2-ish weeks ago. That was more impromptu. It didn't have slides. Some will have slides, some will not. So I just kind of wanted to prepare you for kind of what these calls look like. They're definitely not as formal as like our webinars that we do, and we don't want them to be. I don't want to spend hours scripting out all the things to talk about. I want to have like a general idea of the things that we're going to teach or talk about, but we don't need to have everything fully scripted out. That's not coaching. So today we're going to cover muscle loss. We've talked a lot about those in the webinar, so I'm not going to hit it super, super hard. We're going to be talking about getting your dose right. The dose approach that protects your metabolism. We're going to talk a little bit about how much and how. We're not going to go into great detail. But practical nutrition when your appetite disappears. And this is kind of goes into our protein first rule. I don't like rules, but it's kind of a rule with the GLP-1. Sometimes we have to be a little bit more strict with ourselves. And when we're on a GLP-1, we need to be a little bit more strict with our protein. And then every calorie counts. Your high impact food list for maximum nutrition in a minimal volume. And so this is that last topic is where I'm going to give you a list of foods to kind of like, hey, would these be things that I could incorporate so that I'm getting enough? Remember that enough word? We don't want to overshoot, but we want to make sure that we're not eating too little either. All right. So the next slide. So why does this matter? And we've talked about this in webinars, so I'm not going to go too in depth on this, but I did want to give you some little analogies here that I haven't gone over before. So before we discuss why you aren't hungry, why does it even matter? Because it does matter more than you think. When you struggle to eat enough, there's two different problems that could arise. So the first one is metabolic adaptation. So and the second one is muscle loss. So metabolic adaptation is when you don't fuel the fire doesn't burn as hot. So think of a strong metabolism in maintenance as a burning fire. You have this big burning fire, and that's when you're eating at maintenance intentionally with lots of protein and fiber and nutrients, and it's burning hot. Okay, we have this big fire. When we are on a diet, this is any diet, not just GLP-1, by the way, we are taking logs off. There's not as much fuel. And so what happens when you take logs off a fire? When the logs burn out, the fire goes down. It doesn't completely go down, and it's not like we can't fix it, right? Like you've been to a bonfire where they add stuff to it and it fires back up. Well, that adaptation is when you have your big fire blazing and then you suppress that, your body doesn't burn as much. Your fire isn't as hot. And so what can happen is this is why you hit a plateau. You're not burning as much. And so you're giving off less energy. Okay. So hopefully that little analogy helped. It's a little different way of describing it rather than like the calories. But when we take a log off, when we take the fuel off the fire doesn't burn as hot and we don't burn as many calories. So the longer we diet, the lower we diet. And by diet, like use GLP-1 and maybe we're like, instead of eating just enough to lose a pound a week, we're like suppressing it so much we're eating 800 calories a day. Our fire is barely there. It's fixable. I don't want to like fear monger here. It's fixable. We can put more logs on. We have to put the logs on really slowly. Because what happens if what happens if you have a little tiny fire and you put a big log on top of it? it puts the fire out, right? It doesn't, like, that's not good either. What happens if you put a whole bunch of gasoline on the fire? It goes boom, but then it goes back down really fast. This is the reason for weight regain, is when we have that, when we add too fast, when we overshoot, that also is a problem. So we want a nice fire. We want a nice little bonfire. Homecoming's coming up around the United States for a lot of towns. We want a nice little bonfire, or if you're a camper, we want a nice little campfire. Okay. The second part is the muscle loss. So your body is literally eating itself if we don't protect the muscle. It's catabolic. So your body needs energy for fuel, and it starts to be catabolic if it doesn't get enough nutrients and calories and protein alongside of strength training. Strength training helps just as much as protein. Like, strength training is really, really important. So protecting your muscle is the number one insurance policy for that long-term success, keeping the weight off. Because muscle loss is really sneaky. Sometimes you don't see it right away until you've lost the weight and you're like, wait, but I don't have any shape left with it. You lost it along the way and you didn't even know it because we had that layer of fat over the top of it, right? And so it's sneaky. You don't even realize you're losing it until further along in the process, and you look at your legs and you're like, wait, I can't see the muscle tone there. It's gone. I need to lose more weight to see that, but that's not always the best policy either. And so we really want that muscle for energy, for strength, and eventually that look in the mirror that you want. So one thing I did want to pop in here is we do have, we just created a assessment. Oh man, the link isn't working where I'm trying to get it from. Let me pull it up in a different spot. This is just a free assessment to see, like, am I at risk of this muscle loss? Is my body composition doing what I want it to do? And for some of us, we're eating lots of protein, we're lifting weights, it's doing exactly what we want. But this also prevents plateaus, and it helps prevent, sorry, I'm trying to talk and look at the same time, and I'm not very good at that. Here we go. And it helps prevent muscle loss, or it helps prevent regain. So sorry, bummer that my links don't work. Okay. Next slide here, moving right along, getting your dose right. Okay, so this is all about the minimum effective dose. Less can actually be more. If we have the dose too high, you're not going to have enough appetite to eat enough to protect your muscle. Just like those things we talked about, one of the things we can do is make sure that our dose is really protected and we're not we don't have so little hunger, and we can control this a little bit with a dose. So when this medication came out to the market, it went through a clinical trial and studies, both of the two medications that are currently on the market, semaglutide and tirzepatide, and the brand name ones of those. And to go into a clinical study, you have to have standardized dosing. And so they have the standardized dosing and the standardized schedule. And that's the way it's dosed by most doctors, because that's just what that's the way it was studied. However, many of you know that you don't need as much as some other people. You may need more than other people. You may lose all of your weight on that starting dose. Not very many people do that. I just want to caution you, not very many people do that. Don't get upset with your body or the medication if that's not you. That's not the normal, most effective dose. We want to find the most effective dose. That doesn't mean the smallest, and it doesn't mean the highest. It means you need to find that a lot of times for yourself, and you need to work with a physician that is willing to make those adjustments based on you, and not just this study that happened. This is the way it was done, and so that's just the way we do it. That's not the way any other medication really works. And so I mean, there are medications that, yes, we follow that structure, but this is a medication it's not really the most effective and efficient way to do this. And so I want you to make sure I've just in the last week, I've come across several people that their doctor really doesn't know what they're doing. And they're coming to me for help adjusting their dose. And I don't know their medical history. And I can't answer those questions in, like 2 lines on Instagram. So that being said, like if you need a provider, I want to give you the one that I trust the most because it's really important to get the best dose for you and go over these things with your provider. I had another client that she had extreme hunger and extreme shakiness and dizziness. And she's like, so I need to increase my dose, right? First of all, I shouldn't be making that decision. She got the medication from a telehealth that like gave her the medication and said, good job, here you go, figure it out. Here's the normal dosing schedule. And so she ended up in the ER, first of all, because she started off at the lowest dose commercially available that they told her to, and it was too high for her. And so she had to drop back down. And now she's having extreme hunger and shakiness and dizziness and thinks that she needs to increase her dose because of the extreme intense hunger. That to me is a sign that she actually needs to lower her dose with those intense ones. I think she has low blood sugar. I don't have any way to prove that because I'm not her physician. But I said, you need to talk to your provider or get a new provider that can actually help you with these things and go over side effects and help you do things, go up slowly instead of big jumps and things like that. So anyway, Melissa and her team at Contour are amazing. But whoever you're working with, you can adjust that dose little by little so that you have some hunger. Hunger's not a bad thing. All right, enough of that one. How much and how? So we're almost to the list of things. Sorry if that's the one thing you came for. But what do you do when you're not hungry? This is where most women, including probably yourself if you're here on this call, really struggle. The truth is, when your appetite is low, you need structure and not random bites. I just want to say that again. You need structure, not random bites. And it seems like, oh, but I don't want to be so structured and like we need to be until we can figure out this hunger thing so we're eating enough. We can't just keep skipping meals. We can't just like keep, eating a bite here and a bite here. We need to have some structure so we're getting enough of the right things. We don't want to skip meals. Even if you're not hungry, your body still needs fuel to a certain degree. That's where we need to kind of calculate and see what your calories are for you. Find out what your maintenance calories are. Do a little subtraction to find a reasonable calorie deficit without overshooting. So you're still seeing results. We don't want you to like not be seeing results, but we don't want you to eat too little either. We want you to have protein first. Each meal should be anchored with protein. Even if it's not the very, very first thing you eat, it should be your anchor. I'm going to take another side tangent here. If you find that like, I'm just not hungry and you're almost nauseous, almost to the point of nausea, I have found that eating something that's not protein first, a very small amount to get over that little, like, I'm almost nauseous, so I can't eat. That might mean that you need to eat. I know it's, again, counterintuitive, but what I've found is if I take, this is just one example, a English muffin with some peanut butter on it, and I eat about half of that fairly slowly, like over the course of 10 minutes, it relieves some of that nausea because I have some food on my stomach, just enough food on my stomach that now I can eat the protein. Okay. So if that's you, if you've been like, I'm just an icky feeling. If that's you, try eating something small that's a fat and a carb first, a small amount like I just was talking about, and then going into your protein, and then finishing off. I mean, who doesn't love an English muffin with peanut butter? It's the best thing ever. Like I used to think peanut butter was a protein. It's a fat with a little bit of protein in it. So I was eating a lot of English muffins and peanut butter because I thought it was healthy. But that is still like one of my favorite foods ever. And it is actually really a great food for when you're on GLP-1 and you can't eat enough. Eat your protein, but also eat something like that too, because it doesn't fill you up as much. Peanut butter is not going to fill you up. Okay, so I love that we have questions coming in. You've seen mixed advice on the protein max per dose. Yes, there's different people have different, like there's research out there that says one thing or another. There's a lot of fear mongering going on around it. 30 grams is not the limit. That's okay. 45 even, okay. Now, if we're trying to fast all day and trying to get our 100 to 140 to 160 grams of protein in one meal, yeah, that's not the most efficient and effective. Is it still, I don't know. I would still want to divide that up a little bit more than that much at one time. But as long as we're dividing it into, I would say 3 meals. So say you want 120 grams of protein. If we're doing 40, 40, and 40, or 30, 30, 30, and then some snacks, that is ideal. But getting like those, what are they called? Core Fairlife drinks. There's one that's 42 grams of protein. There's nothing wrong with that. That protein all counts. 30 grams is normal, but I've seen 100 grams per meal. Yes, that does seem like a lot. I don't know that there's an exact answer, and it's not like the protein won't be there. It's just it's stored a little differently in the body. It's not like it's stored as fat or anything like that. But I wouldn't go for 100 grams all at once. Now, if you are a larger male, that may be something that you can get closer to, but most of the time I'm seeing it very difficult for people to get more than 50 grams or 60 grams per meal. So if you're hitting that amount, I think that that's appropriate and wonderful. Mixing up the protein sources is going to be the second part of that, just because there are, this is getting in the weeds. I don't even know if I want to go there. There's, like, for example, someone that's a vegetarian or vegan, they have to be more careful about their protein sources so that they get all the different kinds of amino acids. That's too much for this presentation, but that's another reason why mixing it up and having different sorts of proteins throughout the day can be helpful. If you're getting it some from collagen, great. If you're getting it all from collagen, not okay. That doesn't have all of the amino acids that you need, but I'm not going to dog on. Did I just say dog on? I'm not going to dog on collagen powder. Like, the research isn't great, but like if it can help our hair and our nails and stuff a little bit as well, in our skin, like especially none of us are getting younger. So there's nothing wrong with collagen either. I just like to get mine from like other protein sources other than collagen, because I know that it has all of the more of the amino acids. Okay. But yes, okay, I'm glad that was helpful. I doubt very many people are getting 100 grams per meal unless they're like a big bodybuilder male. I'm going to guess most of the people following me are not interested in, that type of body recomp where you're eating that much at once. I would definitely divide it up into as many meals as possible, especially if this hunger thing is really bothering you. It's going to be very difficult to eat 100 grams all at once. So most people aren't going to be struggling with that, but it is, like, you're right. It's a total topic that has been coming up with people. 40 to 60 grams is fine. There will be a replay on this if I'm talking too much, because I can already tell I've done 30 minutes and this was supposed to be 15. Okay. So, okay, we still want the calorie deficit, but the trick is hitting the right amount of calories. And so that's where macros come in. So I definitely don't want anyone to be counting macros forever, but knowing your numbers for a period of time, tracking for a couple weeks just to get a baseline and kind of see where you're at is not a bad idea. And make sure that you're eating enough without overshooting. And I know it can be overwhelming when you're trying to piece that together. And so that is why we created the nutrition blueprint. This is not a sales pitch for that, but I do want you to know that that's available, because I can't teach 4,000 people in this group how to track macros, what macros simplified really means, how to calculate their macros, how to make adjustments, how to do plateaus, all of the things that are in there, how to create a meal plan, all of those things that are in the blueprint. I can't do that for everyone. I wish I could, but that's why we have that nutrition blueprint. I am going to throw the link in there because, we are a business and that's what we do. But this is not a sales pitch for that. I just want you to know it's available for those that want it. And it's very helpful to make sure that you're getting enough of all of the macronutrients. And we teach it in a very simplified way. So I call it macros simplified because you don't need to be tracking all of the macronutrients. Just kind of like no one is hitting 100 grams of protein per meal. No one is, unless you're like intentionally trying to, no one is not getting enough fat and no one is not getting enough carbohydrates. We're all kind of like intuitively eating enough, and then we can spot check. But for weight loss, it doesn't really matter for those two. It's all about the calories and the protein. And that's why we focus on macros simplified in our program. I do want to just mention that if you need more support and want more one-on-one supports, that is something, just reach out to me personally. I do have like a one-off consultation that we can do together, or I do have one-on-one monthly coaching. If that's something that you're interested in, just reach out to me and I can give you more details on that. But there's that blueprint. Okay, I am going to move on. Every calorie counts. Okay. So this is the counterintuitive truth. Most diets teach you to load up on high volume foods that fill up your stomach. So any other diet you've been on, you've probably been having giant salads, soups, tons of vegetables, and that worked well for those type of diets. But you are on a GLP-1, and that is not your problem. Right now, you are not hungry and you need to eat more. You're under eating. And so this is why those low volume foods matter on a GLP-1. So when your appetite disappears, your body still needs protein, carbs, fats, vitamins, minerals. We don't want to lose our hair, right? To get enough, you need to eat foods that are nutrient dense, but don't take up a lot of space in your stomach. So we're thinking calorie and protein packed in smaller bites. Beef jerky, right? Something like that. Like it's not very much, but get your bang for your buck. So example, this would be like Greek yogurt with nuts instead of a giant salad. Actually using like the full salad dressing instead of like the low fat salad dressing. A chicken wrap with cheese instead of just plain vegetables, just eating vegetables on your plate. Eggs with the yolk and avocado toast instead of a broth-based soup. Okay, that's what I'm talking about when I say low volume, but it's nutrient dense, okay? So what we're used to is that high volume. So high volume, it fills you up fast. So your leafy green salads, your broth soups, your raw veggies, your rice cakes. And what we're talking about is nuts, cheese, eggs, protein bars. How can you eat less and still get the nutrients that you need? Okay. The problem with this is it just gets tricky, because if you plan on transitioning down or off of GLP-1 at some point, you're going to have to retrain your brain to go back more the other way to the low volume foods. So you get enough calories and you stay full. Okay. So that's where the GLP-1 is so different than any other diet we've ever been on. You have to eat completely different foods. You've been told to like go to the diet section of the grocery store and eat that. I'm telling you to do something completely, GLP-1, you have to do something completely different to get enough food. So when you start tapering down or coming off, your appetite comes back. And that's why you need to shift back to those higher volume filling foods. Or if you keep eating like we're eating on GLP-1, the nuts and the avocado all the time and the peanut butter, those high, like lots of high fat cheese, those type of things are going to cause a problem when you go off of medication because they're not as filling for you. Okay. And that's one of the reasons that weight regain is so common. Also that fire that we talked about earlier. And so that is why we do have our reverse diet program, our Master Your Taper. I want you to start that program if you're interested about 4 weeks before reducing your dose or your frequency. Okay. That way your metabolism and your habits are ready to go before your hunger signal comes back. So there's 2 places. I'm going to give you a list right after this. You can screenshot it and then I'm going to put it into a PDF and I'll put it into the program. But I didn't have time to do that last night when I was finishing up the slides. But the energy guide in the resource section also has some great examples of a meal plan to give you enough calories. There's 7 full days, I believe, of at least 1,200 calories. Now, 1,200 calories, is that enough? Probably not for most people, but it gives you like, here's your meal base, and then you can add in a couple of fun things throughout the day. That's why we gave you like, here's what you need, and then you can add in some more things, okay? So that energy guide, it also has these low volume foods. Okay, so here is our list. Oh man, I don't have the second part of it. I have another list that's like combining these into like protein balls and different types of protein shakes. And so I'm going to also put that in a PDF and get it to you guys. It'll be attached to the post. And then I'm also going to include your high volume foods that are better for when you're transitioning off. If your hunger spikes and you're hungry all of a sudden, if you end up going the other way, then we're going to go and we're going to do the other things. So like, for example, instead of rice, we want you to eat the full rice right now when you don't have as much hunger. Later on, you might want to do a combination of like rice and cauliflower rice. Cauliflower rice by itself, that doesn't taste the greatest, right? So let's combine them maybe to have a little bit of both. But when you're super hungry and you want to get the most bang for your calories, something like cauliflower rice is a great option. Here up at the top, we're going to go for more of the full fat, and these are the healthy fats. Like, fat sounds like a scary word. Eggs, those yolks, it sounds scary. We're not going to eat 12 of them. We're going to eat like 2 of them and then add some egg whites to it. But I don't want you to get rid of all of the yolks when we are having this problem with not eating enough. Instead of your white flaky fish, I want you to eat salmon. Salmon's so delicious. And it has more calories, a little bit more healthy fat, more omegas than some of your other like white fishes that don't have as much. Your cheeses, hey, this is your time to enjoy those full fat cheeses. If you're struggling with hunger, go for it. Instead of eating a chicken breast, eat a chicken thigh. Things like that are really where you can tweak what you're eating just slightly so that you're getting enough calories, but then also remembering the flip side of this. When we go into where we're starting to get hungry again, dried fruits, some of these things you definitely want to like be a little bit cautious with. The dried fruits definitely have a lot more carbs in them. There's nothing wrong with carbs, but like, you also don't want to go overboard on these because That's why some people are like, well, I'm barely eating anything and I hit a plateau. Well, maybe we went a little too far on this side of things. So, okay, great. I'm glad that someone said this was so helpful. I'm sorry you had to drop too. I will get the recording up. I think it automatically drops for me. So let me know if you have any questions at this point. Again, I will get the full PDF. This is the main list of foods. I have a list of combination foods, and then I have the opposite list for the transition out as well. So I'm at goal weight, I'm microdosing, muscle loss snuck up on me, and now I have no butt. The thing is, muscle isn't gone forever. You can always rebuild that. Is it possible through strength training to get my back? Okay, yes, you can get your backside back. You're going to want to be focusing on squats, lunges, but also like your hamstrings and your quads. A lot of people don't give enough credit to their quads. So that's like the front side of your legs. And your hamstrings, it seems like, well, I don't want to work my hamstrings. I want to work my butt. But like having tight or having hamstrings that are muscular gives you like, so that, can you see my hand in the video? So it kind of gives you like that rounded look at the bottom where, anyway, yes, you want to do all that type of leg work. Also, I would take out any ab work that you're doing and replace it with upper and lower body, because while you're doing, like, picture yourself doing a squat, you're bracing your core already. We want to get the most bang for our buck, and we don't have unlimited time. There's nothing wrong with ab work, but if you have the time, I want you to be focusing more on your back. Okay, back muscles, that's super, super important, especially as we age, when we want to carry in groceries. You know, people are always tweaking their back. Me too. Wrapping Christmas presents, you guys. Wrapping Christmas presents tweaked my back. But having a stronger back, working your back muscles, building your back muscles is actually what prevents these muscle problems, these tweaking our back. It helps prevent that, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to hurt myself, so I'm not going to lift weights. Well, that's actually, again, counterintuitive. We want to build the muscle so we don't hurt our back. We don't hurt our legs. Side note, once you start lifting weights, especially that first week, especially if you take a break and come back to it, expect the scale to bump up for a week or so, especially if you're sore. I personally am going through that right now. I haven't been getting sleep. We've had sickness. Anyway, excuses. I am so sore right now, and the scale has gone up 2 pounds. I fully know that it is like I didn't build 2 pounds of muscle yet. It is inflammation going to the muscle because I'm sore, and I am retaining water right now. So I just want to kind of make sure that you know that, and you're not like, well, I gained 2 pounds. Like, what is going on? This is not fair. It's going to be fair in the end, I promise. By the way, I agree with Christy. Congratulations, Peggy. That is absolutely amazing. So if you're working out and not really seeing a difference, it takes eating at maintenance for most people to build muscle. If you are new to lifting weights and you've never lifted before, you can gain muscle while you're on GLP-1, while you're in a calorie deficit. That is absolutely possible to gain muscle. But eating at maintenance, like you said, while you're microdosing, you're eating at maintenance, you're eating enough. That is when you can start to build muscle. A lot of people aren't lifting weights the right way. And I say that with the most kindness and love I can, but we don't want to just like be doing like squat bounces. Like, that's really not what we want to do. We want to lift. You might need a barbell at some point. Start off with what you can, but if you could carry a kid, you can carry more than you think, right? So when you're doing your squats, you start off with, let's say you're holding a 20-pound weights. Okay, and you're like, okay, I can do 12 easy. Go up to the next weight, go up to the next weight until 12 is challenging. And that last one, your legs are kind of shaking. We don't want to be doing pulses to 100. That's not really what it's going to build muscle. We want actually lifting heavier progressive overload throughout the course. So we do have our workout program. If you're not already in that, we do progressive overload in that program. Because that's why we built it, especially for these type of things. So, any other questions, guys? Absolutely, Peggy. All right. This was going to be 15 minutes and then Q&A, and it's 45 minutes later. I will work on not going off on tangents and stick to the script a little bit. This is why it's good for me to have slides, but anyway, and why some of you may resonate with Eliza a little bit better, because I don't feel like she probably goes off in as many tangents as I do. So I apologize. I will get this list up for you guys soon, and as well as the replay. Invite your friends. I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you on the next call.